Make a folding buck saw. Some people call it a frame saw. Whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so what we've got is just some wood here. It doesn't really matter what the wood is. I think this is, don't quote me on this, but I think this is spruce or pine or something. It's an evergreen of some sort. But anyway, we're going to need a couple of sticks. These ones are about 2 finger lengths in width. Well, maybe a bit more than 2 finger lengths. It's actually just a tiny bit smaller than the reamer or awl on my Swiss Army knife. You don't have to use this, but I have it, so I'm going to use it today. Alright, let's get started. I stripped the bark off already on these two. We're going to make 2 of these. One's for a friend of mine, one's for me. And I'll show you how to go ahead and quickly do this here. So after you've got your sticks about, I don't know, 14 or 12 inches long, 16 inches long. It's really arbitrary. You can make it as long as you want or as short as you want. But keep in mind that when we go to put the brace right here, so you can have this piece here, a brace up, and then another handle piece. There's going to be a cord that runs through here, and the longer the distance from the brace to the end of this lever, it's going to get squeezed in. So the longer that is, the more crunching power you have, but you're going to have a shorter cutting span because your brace is here and your saw blade sticking here. So if that's further down, then you're not going to have as much distance to cut from. What I do is I'll grab it here and I'll go, I don't know, whatever feels comfortable, and a couple inches above that, pop it right there. But for now, I don't have a tripod with me, so I'm going to have to show you guys step by step in sequence form. But anyway, cut a notch here. You don't actually have to cut a notch. You can also chisel out a little bevel there, and you can put a pin in there through too. But I like this look more. It doesn't actually matter what you choose to do, but this is the route that I'm going to go. There's a woodpecker over there. And for lunch today we got potatoes, dried mint and pomegranate, and canned ham. Does that sound appetizing? Okay, now that we got our notch cut, you can see it there. This blade, this is just a standard bow saw blade. This blade is, gonna squeeze into there just like that. And then later on, when we go to fit this together, we're going to put a hole right, well, put it really anywhere. I'm going to put it right in the middle. And we're going to use this guy here to pop it in. Now, if you don't have an awl or a reamer, what you can do instead is cut a notch on the back side of this, like that. And when you go to fit your saw blade in, that'll go in like that. And then you can run a pin, dowel. I wouldn't really want to use a dowel if you don't have to, but preferably a metal pin in like this, so that when the saw blade gets pushed with pressure, it goes right into that notch that you have cut there, and it would just be friction fit. So I'm starting to cut the hole for the pin to sit through, and I'm trying my best to keep it 90 degrees. It's not quite 90, but close to 90 anyway, to that groove that we cut there, a little chamfer, or sorry, kerf. Anyway, the way I've done this, I don't know if you can see that very well. You might not be able to see that. Anyway, regardless, what I did is I set the saw blade in the kerf like this. It goes down further, but they all sticking through it. But anyway, I set it down, and then I put the blade sort of halfway up, centered it as best I could, and then eyeballed it, scored it with a knife so that I could see roughly where the alignment is for the holes. So if the score line is here, like come up about a skinny eighth, a little over a 16th or something, and then I know where to put my hole. Okay, let's keep drilling. Okay, so I got her in there. I had quite a bit of a problem actually with these 1/4 inch pins, because the 1/4 inch pin is just a tad bigger than the awl. So I ended up having to ream it out a little bit, and then I got it stuck. Oh boy, that had a bit of an issue getting it out. But anyway, so what I ended up doing was I ended up punching it through, batoning it through. Now you can do that. The issue that you're going to run into though, if you're going to hammer this through without pre-drilling it, is you'll get this here. I don't know if you can see that very well in camera, but you end up with splits and push outs, I think they're called, or whatever. Regardless, you're going to end up with wood coming off the backside and splits happening if you're going to drive it through like a nail without pre-drilling it. The solution to this would be to either to put the notches on the back like I suggested earlier, to have smaller pins, or to have a bigger hole. That's pretty much your options there. You don't actually have to use these. I'm using these because I think they look nice, but really any material that you feel will use as a pin, like a nail, you can use a piece of brass, chunk of metal, you can use, well, I guess you could use dowel, but I would refrain from that. I think that would fail. But anyway, you're limited basically to your imagination. So, now that we got that sucker on, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for that side. Handles on, pins are in, and looking pretty good. Next is to use your brace. It is going to go something like that. Again, it really is arbitrary where you have it, but just keep in mind that the more you have sticking up here, the tighter it becomes, because we're going to be spanning a cord across here. However, the lower this is to make that longer, the less cutting distance you have from the kerf of the teeth to the bottom of the brace. So what I'll do is I'll just grab it like this, and I think we're going to go 3 or 4 finger lengths, a couple of inches above that. Again, it's really arbitrary. It doesn't actually matter. And that'll give us, I don't know, 8 inches of cutting depth. That should be lots, I think. Okay, and then to do this, we're going to go ahead and shave this off, make it look pretty. But, what did I do with it? I had another one. We're going to bevel the ends, like this one here. So, like this here, bevel the ends, bevel the ends. There's different ways you can do this. You can put like a dowel in there. You can do like a ball and socket joint. Doesn't matter. Whatever you prefer. I'm going to do it this way because for me, with the tools that I have, that's going to be easiest for me. Anyway, so then when that's like that, we're also going to cut a notch into here to fit that bevel into. And then, just a flat stick. This was a piece of poplar that I've cut and split it down and then flattened it off. And that's going to go like that there. And the cord is just going to wrap around that, and you can use that to twist and bind it tight. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this thing going here. What I've done is I've put the pin through both the holes, well, through one of the holes anyway. One side of the hole, sorry. Anyway, and then took a saw blade. You could also use a knife for this too. Again, doesn't matter, whatever you got. and cut a bevel onto this sucker here. I decided to opt out using this because I think it's just a little bit too beefy. So we're going to utilize the rest of this, and we'll cut one custom fit after these nocks are in, because if you do it before, you're going to lose like a solid inch of length, or gain, I guess, sorry. You'll be gaining an inch of length because you're removing material here. And you can make wood shrink, but it's really hard to make it grow. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the notches first, then we'll go ahead, cut that to length, taper the ends, and once that's done, on the opposing side to this, like this is the handle here, get this sucker off of there. I'm gonna put the phone down. There we go. Sorry, that's really hard to do with one hand. Alright, so anyway, so that's gonna be like that, right? Then your brace is here. So what I'm also gonna do is carve another notch. Well, I don't know, it doesn't matter. 3/4 of an inch down on the opposing, like the opposite side of the blade. So the blade's there. The notch is going to be right here, and that's all that is really just to do is to hold the cordage from slipping off. So we got a real good fit on this one. So you can see the notch that I cut in the handle and in the brace. And it's just a simple wedge. That's it. All held together by friction. Same thing on this side. It's in there nicely. That one there nicely. Okay, we're almost done here. So the next two pieces we're going to make, or one piece, sorry, is this guy. This is for a different one, so I'm going to make this one a whole new one. But anyway, it's really easy. Just like a branch or small log or whatever. And then what I'm going to do is split it, because imagine this is round here. Split it down, and then shave it flat. And that is good enough. Now it's got to be long enough that it can stop on the brace and get intertwined with the cordage. Too long isn't always a good thing because it becomes a pain in the butt to try to wrap it around. So what I'll do when I go to make this one, after I've cut my notches for the string, I'll leave this overhanging about 1.5 inches, and then about 1.5 inches to 1 inch approximately overhang on the brace. A piece cut to approximate size, or you know what, actually that looks pretty good already. I'll probably just leave it the same length. But what I will do, well, what you could do actually, just leave it as is. That will work. Well, it kind of matches the rest. I don't know if I want to cut this in out or not. But anyway, what I was thinking of doing, I'll rephrase that, is batoning that down and making it flat, like this other one that I did. But I'm looking at it, I don't know, should I keep it round or should I make it flat? Kind of matches the rest of the... Anyway, I'll get back to you on that. Well, I really couldn't decide if I wanted to keep it flat or round, so I did both. Aha! Anyway, you don't actually have to do this. I'm just goofing around because I think it looks cool. So that'll be custom fit on there, just like that. Okay, now you will need some sort of cord for this. I'm going to use 550 paracord. I think it's, ooh, don't quote me on this, but I think it's around 150 pounds-ish tensile strength, like breaking point, which should be plenty enough on its own, but I'm going to double wrap this. And that should be well more than enough to suck that sucker tight. Let's see if it works. So I got the cord on there, toggle's ready to go, and it is just about complete. Now the reason I did a double coil on this, I don't actually think you really need to with this cord. That's pretty strong stuff. But I'm going to be putting this in my backpack for bushcraft and hunting, hiking, etc. So I wanted to be able to use this cordage to tie in on itself for easy transport. Alright, and then to make this work, find the middle, stick your spindle, toggle, whatever you want to call it, through, and start twisting it up. So that's it. That is the working saw. See if I can find a piece of deadfall or something. And that one right there will probably work, and I'll show you how she works. It's got a little bit of play, like laterally, and I think I would say to fix that would be to make these notches deeper, so that it's more like wedged. This is more wedged in, but for me to do that, I would have to get these thicker. Because as it is, you can already see it's got a wicked bow on there. So I don't really want to put any more tension on this if I don't have to. Alternatively, I guess you could go with a thicker handle, but that pin would have to be on the outside if I'm going to use the setup that I have. But that's why we go out and we test these things before we actually need them. The last design that I did, and it was actually starting to fold right here, getting pinched over. And the other problem was, it had way too much lateral movement. So I decided to scratch that idea altogether. And I've done something slightly different. I've gone with a thicker handle, same wood, and I've utilized the same parts from last time, the winder thingy, this brace here, that's all the same, but the handles are different, they're a little thicker, and because they're thicker, I actually couldn't use my awl, because it doesn't actually physically go deep enough. So for this one, I've decided to use the pull-through technique. So you just, same thing as before, you cut it out, but instead of putting the hole here, you just put a notch on the outside. And actually I think this is a little bit stronger, to be honest. But the same idea, same notches. I also shortened this just a little bit, and I made these notches a little bit more custom so that there's hardly any play. But if I put this sucker on the ground, it barely moves. So that should be, I think, a lot more adequate for what we're doing. This tree I did last time, not the world's greatest cut, but we're going to try it again, this time with a new improved buck saw, in theory. If I can do this with one hand, then it is good. Well, I don't know about that, but I have to hold the camera, so. Oh yeah, that's way better. I think it doesn't even move at all. Here they are finished. Two of them look pretty good. Both work actually quite well. I'm really surprised in how they turned out.